Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our publishing and coaching services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Kathryn Haueisen, author of Asunder. Kathryn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be with you today.
Are you ready to get started?
I am ready.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Keep writing. Even on the days where you don't think you have anything to write about, then write about how you don't have anything to write about. Just keep writing.
That is great advice. Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
How complex it's gotten. The good news is anybody with a computer and Wi-Fi can publish a book today. The really challenging news about that is everybody with a computer and Wi-Fi is trying to challenge a book today.
Yep.
So the competition is many, many times greater than it was 25 years ago. It's very complex, and there's a lot of competition for space on the places where people go to look for books. So you really kind of have to keep working at it, and you have to stay connected to people who know how to do this and are willing to help you.
Absolutely. I was just got off the phone with an interview a few minutes back, and we were talking about the struggles with Amazon, and I always reference the basically as being as the Amazon rainforest. If you don't launch your book correctly, it goes in the Amazon rainforest. And
yes.
The guest I had on the show said, forget the rainforest, it's just a swamp right now because there's so many books out there. And I was like, yeah, that's actually a fair point, because there is a lot of competition, and if you don't do it right, it's just going to disappear.
Yes. And many of the traditional publishing companies, the smaller ones, the ones that I published my first books with, have gone under.
Yeah.
The bigger ones really want big name authors that can really sell, like, 1 million copies, like the fellow who just released his book about the Trump administration. I think it's over 1 million copies sold in 24 hours. But that is not going to be the story for 99.9% of us. So we just have to really keep chipping away at it and learn a little bit more as we go along every day.
Absolutely. Now, did you go through a traditional publisher, or did you publish your book yourself?
Asunder was my first non-traditionally published book. I was going to self-publish it, and I started asking a friend of mine who had self-published a book how he did that, who he used, how he got it edited, all of those kinds of questions. And he had recently formed his own small publishing house to promote his own work, and was willing to take me on. And so it was quasi professionally published. So we paid the expense of getting it published, and we did the marketing ourselves. But he did all of the background work on it, and then I did the marketing part of it.
Yeah, I think that's
so it's kind of a hybrid process.
Yeah, and that's one of the main commonalities these days. It doesn't matter which publisher you go through, unless it's Penguin or Random House, you are still expected to do the lion's share of the marketing. And I think that's really an eye-opener for those that want to get their books out there, even if they go the traditional route, that you still are expected to do the marketing.
Absolutely. They will publish the book for you, and they may give you some marketing resources, but they are expecting you to be out there publishing the book for them. Marketing the book for them, yes.
Well, and that's going to change.
And a lot of authors really, that's really a deal breaker for a lot of authors, because they just love to write.
Yeah.
They don't like to go out and speak. They don't like to have to do that marketing work, but that's part of the deal if you want to be a published author today.
Absolutely, and that transitions nicely into our next question, and that is about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that works well.
Well, it seems to be counterproductive, but I think it really works as you give your books away. Not all of them, but some of them. Because mine is about divorce and recovery from divorce, I have given them to people I know who have been dealing with divorce, and say, if you like this, if it's helpful to you, I would appreciate you posting a review about it for me, and telling somebody else who may be going through this difficult time that you found the book helpful and they can get it. So that has worked to some extent. Of course, doing book launches, we hosted one at my home. going to the local independent bookstores and introducing yourself and saying, would you consider taking a few copies of this? And or would you consider letting me do a book signing? And a couple of them have said yes to that. And then just keep talking and networking with other people. I think the strongest thing we can do is network with other authors who are in the same relative position that we are. They're not world famous authors, but they have stories to tell, and they're committed to try and get their stories out there. And so, it's a you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of a situation, very, very much.
Well, when you bring up an interesting strategy, I've never actually heard of someone hosting a lunch party actually at their house. So how did that work?
Well, I'm married to an Italian who loves to cook, so that helps. I invited, well, it did, because he does love to cook. I literally invited everybody I could think of that I thought was within a reasonable driving range of our house. And then I partnered with a woman who does PR for authors for a living. And so she helped me do some of it, and she put the word out to a few places. And I don't remember exactly how many we had, but it seems to me the house was pretty full. People had a great time, and then I got to introduce a couple people to a couple of other people, and so I helped them build up their network. And we sold some books. And I'm sure sometimes some of those books people bought just because they felt obligated because they came to our house and ate our food. But nonetheless, they came and they got signed copies of the books. So we thought it was a success.
And that's such a unique strategy. So you were selling copies of the book and you signed it for them. So essentially, you were doing a book signing / lunch party at your house.
Right.
With
Right.
good food.
And the other, yes. Yes, and the other thing I did that I picked up at a writers' conference I went to, which would be one of my recommendations also, is get to writers' conferences and events. Go to places that you go all the time and ask if you could launch your book there. So I go to the same place about once every 6 weeks to get my hair cut and my toenails painted, and she did a book signing event for me.
So you're
It
utilizing...
did not turn out to be a huge success in the number of books that we moved. But one of the hairdressers came over to talk to me and asked what the book was about. I told her, she said, oh my gosh, I've got a client that's going through this right now. I need to get a copy of a book for her. So, think outside the box. Think of all the places that you go that have space where you might be able to set up a table, and with the owner's permission, obviously, see if you couldn't sit there for a couple of hours sometime.
Well, and I like your idea of doing book signings at local businesses, too. That is one area that I feel is just such a great area of opportunity.
Yes. And we all need to help each other. Our local businesses need our support, and we need the support of our local businesses. I go to a particular book shop here in Houston all the time. They host a once-a-month book club, that discussion group that I try to go to. And I got them to donate some things for me to put into a gift basket. Then I added my books to the gift basket, and I let a fundraiser group that I'm affiliated with use that gift basket as a silent auction item. So just got to keep thinking creatively.
Well, and I love your philosophy about giving away the book, too. I typically do that for Chamber of Commerce events. When we do our Business Over Breakfast, I always donate an autographed paperback copy for the raffles. I'll give away other events because it's just a great way to get exposure and another opportunity to give back and help support those events.
Right. And then they feel grateful to you, and they will say nice things about you to people that you have not yet met. So that's how we spread the word, bit by bit.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Oh, my gosh. I have so many favorite books. This is really hard. But I'll divert back to my childhood. When I was a teenager, I started reading Pearl S. Buck. And I do not know how I got hooked on Pearl S. Buck, but I have really admired both her style of writing. I think I've incorporated a lot of it into my own style, and the topics that she wrote about. So the Good Earth, which was a very, very popular movie way back when. Most modern readers probably have not read it or seen the movie. But I was captivated with the story she told about the desperately poor farmers in China and how they lived through that phase of life together and how they overcame all of that. So I've been inspired by Pearl S. Buck because she combines really good writing with what to me seem to be really important social issues in a very captivating way. So I have intentionally read everything of hers I could get my hands on, and have tried to model some of my writing after her.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
All right, well, I have this one in front of me. It says, "Keep your face to the sunshine, and you cannot see a shadow." And that's very important to me because the author of it is Helen Keller.
That's a great quote.
So, yeah, and Helen Keller is just such an inspiring story, such an inspiring personality. I mean, if anybody ever had a reason to crawl in a corner and feel sorry for themselves and suck their thumb the rest of their life, it would be Helen Keller. But that's not what she chose to do, and thank God that she didn't. She has inspired millions of people with her life. So yeah, that's one worth printing out and putting up on the wall to look at when you think you can't do this anymore. Well, maybe you just need to get another cup of coffee or tea and then come back at it again.
Well, Kathryn, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
I have a website, which is a play on my very impossible last name, but easy to remember. It's howwisethen.com.
Well, Kathryn, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for what you're doing to help authors get connected with each other and get the word out. We really appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.